wonderful oddities, and welcome to a new second channel video. Today is the grand return. Really been that long, but still, the grand return of Adaptation Arena. Yes, that's right, the series where I take 3 different live-action interpretations of a Mortal Kombat character and talk about which one is the most accurate to the source material. But the problem is that there's not actually any more Mortal Kombat characters to cover. So now, what are we left with? Non-Mortal Kombat characters. So on the second channel, I'm going to be covering some non-Mortal Kombat characters in Adaptation Arena, starting with Spider-Man, one of the most popular superheroes to ever exist, one of the most popular characters to ever exist, and he has 3 very distinct live-action interpretations, and that is Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the most recent one, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, the one before that, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, the first one. Yeah, we're going to be talking about which one is the most accurate to the Spider-Man original Marvel comics. So without further ado, let's get started with the appearance category. Now this one is interesting because, you know, there's some specific design elements that have always been a part of the more live action Spider-Man costumes, designs, whatever, that haven't really been a part of the comics. The most, like, I guess, egregious, I mean, that makes it sound negative, but it's not necessarily negative, but like the one that's most prominent, I guess is a better word, is the raised webbing. This has been a part of most notably the Sam Raimi movies, because he had the very distinct silver raised webbing, and, you know, Spider-Man in the comics doesn't really have raised webbing. It's more just like an actual design on his spandex outfit, and it's black, not silver. Andrew Garfield, for his first movie, didn't have it, but the webbing was kind of weird in that movie. It wasn't really like webbing, it was kind of like a weird pattern. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that thinks that. But then in his second movie, he had the raised webbing with his iconic Amazing Spider-Man 2 outfit. And Tom, I don't think Tom has ever had a raised webbing outfit as of yet. Yeah, I don't think so. All of his suits have been strictly with the actual design just being on the spandex. So I guess that gives him some points in that category. Another thing for Tom is the fact that he has the expressive eyes. Obviously, I don't think in the actual world of Marvel Comics his eyes are expressive, but in the actual comics themselves, to kind of show his personality, show when his face is making a certain movement under the mask, they just have his eyes move and stuff. It's also in some of the cartoons as well. So the fact that they were able to do that in the movie, it's kind of cool, and I feel like they've kind of done it in a way to where it's influenced the comics into now having the actual eye motions and stuff be like canon to the actual like world. I don't know if that's like official or anything, but it would make sense. It's also in the PlayStation game, which I think actually technically did it before Marvel did, because like the trailers and stuff in the game was in development for a long time, but still. Also, you know, talking about some of the other ones, you know, they have these very like, I guess, not scary, well, kinda, but like very sharp, I don't know, angular spiders, whereas the comic version, generally, they're kind of more like, not playful, but like rounded, and it's less like intimidating compared to like the Sam Raimi movies where the spider is giant and like kind of, you know, like a scary spider or something that you like see crawling around in your attic or something. Same thing with not the Sam Raimi, that's the one I just talked about. The Andrew Garfield movies where the spider is sort of similar, but it's also like super long as well, like a daddy long leg spider. The only one that kind of resembles the actual comics version is Tom Holland's suits, who generally have like a little, it's not like the same thing as in the comics, but like it's not like the super angular sort of stuff. It's sort of like this techie, like still like pointed tips and stuff like that, but like it's sort of more compact, I guess, and dense, if that makes any sort of sense, which it probably doesn't. But, you know, everything I've said so far kind of makes me want to lean towards Tom. Now, Tom is also the only one who's had multiple outfits, so I don't know if that like decreases his points or increases them, because, you know, technically, you know, Spider-Man has had multiple costumes in the comics, but like, it's not like super common or anything. I don't know. I think either way, the point here has to go to Tom, especially with that new outfit from the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. Perfection, and it's definitely the most comic accurate suit we've had yet. So I'm going to give this first one to Tom. Moving on, now we have Moveset, who has the exact abilities and powers and stuff as the original Spider-Man. Now, starting with Tobey, the one thing that he has that is a little weird and funky and not like the original source material is, of course, his organic webbing. Now, Spider-Man has had organic webbing in the past. There's also some other versions of Spider-Man from the multiverse that have organic webbing, but generally they're just web shooters. And there was a plan to have web shooters in the original Sam Raimi movie, but for whatever reason, they cut it out. So he has like web coming out of his wrists and stuff, which is kind of disgusting, but that's the way they did it. And, you know, functionally, it's the same thing, so it doesn't really matter that much. Other than that, he's shown to be very, very strong. Not like super acrobatic or anything, like he's probably the least acrobatic out of the three, but, you know, decent movements and stuff. You know, he was able to jump across these large buildings. I just like moved a bunch of stuff and like it almost all fell onto me. That's why my like eyes pointed down. Let's get back to the video. So yeah, he has abilities. Tobey Spider-Man, he has Spider-Man ability. Obviously, he can wall crawl, and he has like the little things sticking out of his hands and stuff. It's gross, once again, but you know, whatever. And then you have Andrew Spider-Man. He has the web shooters. Other than that, basically the same thing as Tobey's, just like he's strong, he's fast, he can wall crawl, he can do all that stuff. I feel like Andrew's Spidey sense was a bit more prevalent. I felt like Tobey's spider sense was kind of like in moments, in spurts, just whenever the plot said he had to have spider sense, whereas Andrew's, I feel like, was a bit more consistent, and they did some cooler stuff with his, I feel. And then you have Tom, who, I mean, has a very wide array of abilities, considering the fact that his suits up to this point have been mostly Stark tech. So, you know, you got the Iron Spider, you've got that original Stark suit, the red and blue one. Then you had his upgraded suit from Far From Home at the end. And then, you know, you had the, what was it called? The integrated suit. And then you even had the suit which had like Doctor Strange magic attached to it. And it feels like the new suit is going to be something that's not super technical or whatever. So, I don't know, that might be a good thing to some people. I don't really care. So for the most part, he has a lot of abilities and stuff that the original Spider-Man does not have generally. You know, characters like PS4 Spider-Man have like crazy abilities because that's a video game. But, you know, if we're talking the original 616 version of Spider-Man, not really something that he has too often. So I think out of all of them, the only one that doesn't have some like weird, like either technology or weird like organic power or whatever, the only one that's just kind of like normal Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. So I'm going to give the point to him in this category. And then next up we have casting. Now this is not how good of an actor you are. This is not like how well suited you are for the role in terms of like acting and like your personality or whatever, because we already have a section for that. But this is more so the physical aspect of the character. Do you look like the character? Do you have certain accolades that would make sense for the characters? So for a super strong character, are you a weightlifter? Are you a bodybuilder? If you're a character with martial arts abilities, do you have martial arts experience? Stuff like that. So which of these actors has the most Peter Parker, Spider-Man-y physical accolades, physical traits, or whatever? Well, starting with Tobey, the thing that sticks out about these first two, Tobey and Andrew, is that they are not very close to the actual age of Spider-Man, especially when he starts out. Tobey, I think, was like 20, not like super old or anything, like early to mid 20s, something like that. It wasn't like super egregious or anything, but Andrew was pretty egregious. He was like almost 30 at the time he played Spider-Man, and that's kind of insane. But Tobey, you know, he has that kind of dorkish look to him, and you know, you can definitely tell that he is a Peter Parker from a universe, maybe not like the main Peter Parker, but you know, he looks like he could be Peter Parker. And, you know, you can kind of say that for all of them because Spider-Man is generally an easy character to get the look down right. Just a person with brown hair. That's really all you need, just a person with brown hair. They can have any sort of hairstyle. Oh, obviously they also have to be white. But obviously, a white person with brown hair, that's really all you need for Peter Parker. So yeah. And then Tobey, I don't think he had any sort of like not martial arts, acrobatic. I think he was just like a regular dude actor. And then Andrew, I mean Andrew again, just a guy, just a dude, brown hair, white. Yeah. He doesn't have as much like dorkish, shy energy as Tobey did. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, like Spider-Man or Peter Parker, he isn't like super dorky. He's like hot and like all the girls love him." I get that, but you can be hot, but also like be dorky at the same time. And Andrew doesn't strike that sort of energy. Like a lot of times, he just kind of comes off as a little creepy, in my opinion. Anyway, I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much to me, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really like Andrew's not acting obviously because we'll get to that, but like just his presence, his demeanor as Spider-Man. I do like, however, this is gonna sound kind of weird, sort of his body type, physique for the character. He's very tall, he's very lanky, and I kind of like that. Where Tobey was more like stubby, I guess, compact, but also like very muscular. Like Andrew, still muscular and stuff, but like he's more long, he's more tall, and I kind of like that for Spider-Man. I don't know why, but like it just makes sense. It also makes sense with his like logo because that one's like super tall and lanky and long, and I think that's pretty cool. And then you have Tom, who is definitely the youngest out of all of them. I think he was like, I don't remember, was he under 18 when they had him play Spider-Man for the first time? I think he might have been, but I'm gonna say the safe option is probably just that he was 18, and so he definitely gets a big boost in that. White guy, brown hair. We can move past that part, and he does have acrobat, not like accolades. I don't know if he has like trophies or whatever, but he's able to do a lot of his own stunts, and he's very acrobatic. He's able to like do flips and cool stuff and stuff like that. And he also just has that dorky energy that I like for Spider-Man. So I think I'm gonna give this one also to Tom. And then next up we have story. Who has the most Peter Parker-like story out of the three? Now I feel like this one is pretty obvious, just because the way that the timeline of events in our world went, for this to be the order of which the Spider-Mans were conceived in live action. I don't know why I made that sound more complicated than it is, but basically, since Tobey was the first one to become Spider-Man, it basically means that, he was the most accurate because the second and third ones had to find a way to be different, and by being different, they were different from Spider-Man's original story. So, when you look at Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, his storyline was completely different with his. I mean, like I know Spider-Man's parents were obviously a thing in the comics, and yeah, whatever. But his parents working for Oscorp, being assassinated, like the Spider, like being created by his father, and the Spider-Man abilities only being able to be possessed by Peter Parker because of the way the spider's DNA is. Like it's very complicated. Not only that, but like his hunt to find Uncle Ben's killer is a lot more prolonged. It's kind of his sole reason for being Spider-Man, instead of like just kind of this offhand thing that is actually like a stepping stone to him becoming Spider-Man, which I don't really like that much. But we're not talking about what we like, we're talking about what's accurate, and it's not accurate either. Yeah, and then the story plays out. I don't know. It's just not really similar at all to the original Spider-Man story. When you compare it to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he had pretty basic Spider-Man stuff. He becomes Spider-Man. A villain shows up. The Green Goblin, and they adapted those Green Goblin stories very well. Where he fights Green Goblin, or Norman Osborn. He goes insane because of his goblin juice or whatever, and he has to fight Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man accidentally gets Green Osborn killed. Green Osborn, no, or Green Goblin killed by his own glider, and Harry gets mad about it. it's very basic Spider-Man stuff, and that's only the first movie. The second and third, obviously, it's not going to be super one-to-one accurate to any of the comic storylines or anything, but I feel like they did a pretty good job with condensing it all down into a nice 3-movie sort of thing. And for Tom, he is also very different, especially considering he is in the MCU and was kind of raised by the MCU and their characters. The fact that, you know, Spider-Man in his like full form was kind of created by Tony Stark is not obviously not something that is in the comics, and Tony Stark being this version of Tom's like Uncle Ben, also very different from how it is in the original source material, and him just being so involved with the Avengers and having all these connections and stuff. Not really anything like the actual comic version of the character, so I think this one is a pretty clear dub for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And now, lastly, we have personality. This is the one that's probably going to cause the most rage, wars, and whatever in the comments, but who had the best personality as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man? Now, Tobey Maguire, I feel like, I don't know. You know, I know this is like a cliche to say, but you know, he was a decent Peter Parker, but as Spider-Man, he was really lackluster, you know, barely quipped at all, barely had anything to really say at all. His Spider-Man voice is kind of wimpy and weak, and it's like, I don't know, he feels uncomfortable anytime he talks as Spider-Man. So, you know, as Peter Parker, he's alright, you know, not super, like, I guess, charismatic, I guess, not super interesting, not super, like, intriguing of a character that I want to know more about. It's kind of just, like, pretty basic. And then you have Andrew, who, you know, has the potential to be a good Spider-Man, especially for taking into account, like, No Way Home and that sort of stuff, and the fact that his story arc was finally able to be completed. But overall, I just feel like the way that the story went, like, I don't know, we never just saw him at his full potential, and I don't really like where his character was left off, even in No Way Home, just because like of his association with the rest of the movie that he was in, the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, I don't know, I just feel like they sold him short as a character. Pretty good as Spider-Man, pretty good at quipping and stuff, but just generally overall as a character, I won't say like his Peter Parker specifically was bad, but just overall as the character, like, I just needed to see more from him. And I also just don't like certain moments with him just like talking, and like, I don't know, sometimes he just like not gets on my nerves, but like just rubs me the wrong way, and I don't really like that in Spider-Man. And then you have Tom, and you know, this is where the controversy comes in. I think he's the best one for this category, honestly. I think he has, you know, the personality of Peter Parker, especially as the trilogy went on. He became a bit more mature and a bit more like the generalized Peter Parker that we know. And then as Spider-Man, obviously he's great. It was actually kind of weird. It kind of like when he was Spider-Man the first time in Civil War and Homecoming and stuff like that, he was quipping a lot. But then as the series went on, you know, Far From Home, No Way Home, he started to quip a little less, which I think is interesting. It doesn't really have anything to do with this video in particular, but I think it's just a cool little detail that I noticed. And yeah, I just feel like he's super well-rounded as the character. I think very charismatic as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man in two different ways, which is very hard to do, to play the same character, but acting as two different characters, and they're both likable in two completely separate ways. Like, that's very hard to do. And he does it pretty well, and the comics are able to do it pretty well. And I feel like the recreation of his personality from the comics to the movie is pretty dang perfect. So, yeah, I think that Tom wins 3, 2, 1, and 1. Because Tobey gets 1 for story, Andrew gets 1 for moveset, but I think Tom gets the rest. And, you know, maybe I'm biased here. Maybe I'm biased. And plus, comic accuracy isn't even, like, super important, alright? It's not, like, the end-all be-all. It's not, like, who's the best one or anything, like, objectively. But I'm trying to look at this in the most objective way. Maybe you guys can disagree with me in the comments and say what you think, but from my point of view, it looks like Tom is probably the most accurate Spider-Man that we've gotten so far, especially if you just look at it in these 5 categories. Sure, maybe if you look at it overall, like the weight of certain things, like story, maybe the weight of the story or the moveset is a bit more, I don't know, like important than like his design, his personality, whatever. But, you know, I don't know. I'm willing to have that talk with you guys in the comments if you want. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know who you want me to do next. There's not a lot of characters out there with 3 different live action appearances that I'm interested in anyway. I'm not going to do like James Bond or something. So yeah, is there any characters? Any other characters I can think of with 3 different live action appearances? I don't think there is. Well, that's interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. A lot of these. I'll see you next time.